Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 29th day of October 2018. I had to look there because I didn't check beforehand. Well, today in this year of illumination, 2018 reduces to 11, so I haven't been using that as part of the actual, full day's numerology. And today is also 29 reduces to 11, so I think I'm going to leave that alone too. So that's two 11s, and then a 1 for new beginnings based on illumination, maybe. Maybe we have been discovering things in this over the course of time that maybe we didn't know about. Maybe we're learning new things. Things are coming to light. Things are being revealed. And let's see, is this all of this deck? I think so. Yep. Okay, I'm going to use the Morgan Greer again today instead of the Rider-Waite, just to give us a little more color to our day. I was asked the question that, well, I don't want to say witches hate this question, but witches hate this question. So why do you think you're a witch? It kind of got pulled back, but it already came out before it got changed, to something a little maybe less judgy. I don't know. That's a question that for most, well, I don't know about most of us, but I would think most of us. I was born a witch, so I've always known. I've known since I was 3, actually. So I've lived in stealth mode, as they say, most of my life. I had my awarenesses, and I just didn't practice per se openly. It wasn't as if I hid things. I just didn't ever name it. So I actually came out, not just a few years ago and said, hey, so you know what I am and everything, the way I am. And my husband's like, yeah. And I said, well, I started with the empath part. I said, so this awareness that I have, that's called being an empath. At least that's what people call it now. It's just a word that's used these days. So, we had a long talk about that, and I explained how he was empathic as well, and our boys are, and all of that, and sometimes when you finally name something, I think it's easier to then put the pieces into place that maybe give a better picture than just all this scattered stuff about somebody, even though I'm really not into naming things, because I forget the physicist that said this, but basically said that, when you name something, you limit it. And I never wanted to limit myself. So, and plus, I would always get in trouble for the things I knew when I was little. So it's like, oh, because of course I must be eavesdropping or something. Well, no, I wasn't. And so you learn early on when you have these awarenesses or these propensities for, creating potions and healing and all of these things, which I did. We had sled dogs. And so, every single one of them was a patient. And so we lived in Alaska at the time. And, but when you're given to all of this, I don't know, eventually you come clean about it. It took me a really long time, but I was in my 50s when I finally said something and said, okay, this is what this is. And so I had talked about, the things that I had heard growing up and just the stuff that I had experienced. And I said, so what I also am is a witch. And I said, I believe that it's throughout my family, as we know, because I'd been investigating my ancestry. And sure enough, it is. My 14th great-grandmother was burned as a witch, and she was ordered burned by King James IV, who is either a grandfather or an uncle in my ancestry. So, I'm in the Merovingian line and all of that silly stuff. But so we had a nice long talk about that. And But I have to tell you, I haven't been asked that question uh, in a while, and it felt really odd because it's like, well, I didn't decide to do this. You know, um, I mean, there might be some witches that, maybe, I don't know, that decide to do it, but how do they know? I mean, even if they feel that it was a decision, how do they know that it was something they truly chose? How do they know that it wasn't a calling? Because I would venture to guess when they get into it and they start really, living life openly as a witch, they I think they must realize that there was a calling deep within. So I don't actually believe that there's anyone that just decides one day, okay, I think I'll do this, like, okay, I think I'll go skydiving or something, I'll learn how to do that. I don't think that's what it is. But it was odd. It was like I didn't decide it. It just is. And it can't not be, you know? To not feel the resonance with the earth, to not, feel a natural propensity to want to heal, to want to see how the plants work together and how we express unity. I mean, the latest expression is unity consciousness. I'm glad these things are coming out, so people can start thinking in terms of it, to start thinking in terms of everything being an expression of all that is, So, but in any event, I just wanted to share that here while I'm shuffling. That it's like, you know, I didn't decide it. It's just something that is, and it's something that most of us hide, particularly if, well, I should say not particularly if you're not in a coven, because you would think that would be protection, but maybe you really want to hide it if you're in a coven because you've got other people to consider who may not be as open as you are, But I've never belonged to a coven, so I've always been solitary, and this has just been me. It's just been who I am and how I conceive of things. So, yeah, the empath part is part of it, I guess. And then you have, I mean, the whole notion of that, I guess, is it's not anything special. When we're not in form, that's how we communicate. That's how we experience the greater unified presence of all. And that's all an empath is doing. They just haven't forgotten that, or that trait, that awareness didn't stay in the veil, on the other side of the veil, when we experience the veil of forgetting, when we come into form. I think empaths just don't really experience that so much, and so they experience everything as energetic awareness. And it doesn't make them special. It just makes them maybe more awakened, or maybe they were here for a specific purpose, maybe a healing purpose for others, or to help hold the balance or the resonance of everything. I don't know. It's kind of how I view myself, but every empath's going to have to figure that out. But basically, it doesn't make you it doesn't make you this special individual any more than being an expression of all that is makes you a special individual. You already are a special individual, whether you have empathic awareness or not. You know, you're no more special. In other words, if you do have it, you just have more headaches. You just know things you don't want to know. So, and experience energy you don't want to experience. So, it's you have to learn how to negotiate through that in your life when you see things the way I do and feel things the way I do. So it can be really disconcerting, and you can think you're going crazy when you're really not. It's especially if you start picking up medical stuff off of people. I pick up, it's like I always have to ask my husband, okay, is this my knee or yours? Because mine was fine just a second ago. Are you in pain? And he'll say, yeah, I'm in some pain today. So I'll know that that's not my knee acting up, that that's his I'm picking up. So it's just something I've always done. And I was just, again, born this way. So, you know, but anyhow, let's count 13 and see what we have for today. Story over. My light went out there on the screen when I was counting. Geez. All right. Well, let's see. So let's get this in a better lighting. I said the other day, I said that something was the four of wands. And it was actually the two. Yeah, this is the seven of wands. Let's see if we can not get a glare on this. I don't know what I can do about it. Maybe come over here. Yeah, I'll come over here today. But what you see there is he's standing above the fray, basically, in a defensive posture. Now, this could be people attacking him, or it could also be people supporting him, and he's just above the fray as maybe more of a lookout or a scout, or maybe the leader trying to figure out when he's going to say, let's go. But a seven is about balance, okay? It's about exploring the shadow side and the spirit side of self, really. It's about divinity, but basically I see it as balance. In fact, and visually I look at it as the scales, you know, with three on each side of the one in the middle. And I also look at it as the resting point. That place in the middle is sort of the resting point for observation. We react a whole lot in life, and sometimes it's just best to sit back and wait and watch. And that's in a sense what he's doing here. So I got a better light there on it, didn't I? Well, getting a little bit glary there. But wands signify our will. It's a fire element. And so what he's really doing there is he's standing in his own power. He's standing strong. He's observing, you know, kind of look before you leap. But it denotes struggle. There may be some kind of a small victory here, but here we're kind of looking at confrontation, aren't we? So it could be a battle of wills, with this guy maybe trying to be the one that's you know, the winner or the victor, maybe. But if you look on his face, if you take a look at his face, see if we can get it out of the glare, maybe over here. But he's got some determination to him, doesn't he? So he's got courage to meet whatever is coming his way, doesn't he? But let's see what the rune has to say. So maybe today, you know, if I mean, Mondays aren't always great. You kind of have to, you know, get yourself together, and we're not always together on Monday, are we? And so, you know, you're recovering from the weekend, depending on what you did, and so maybe you just need to take some time today, and if something feels like it's off, or maybe conflict is starting with somebody, or maybe you're having some conflict within, maybe it's time to just step back, go above the fray, go above the conflict, and get a better perspective. And find some inner balance to the whole thing, to see if you can find a better solution than beating the crap out of everybody with staffs, you know. In the Morgan Greer, they too use staffs instead of wands for wands. But here we have Perthrow, which I believe is at the 14th rune of the Elder Futhark. Yeah. So that's change. It's a water rune. So maybe there's going to be some change for you today. You know, maybe we're looking at maybe sometimes when you're in the midst of conflict and you rise above it and you take a look at it and you're like, well, this is ridiculous. Why am I doing this? This makes no sense. And so you need to allow for your emotions to soften, for your will to maybe take a back seat a little bit, to maybe a little more reason. Maybe the elements are just not in line today for you. So maybe the will is out of control. And so what the Seven of Wands always seems to say to me is that you need to get above it all. And you need to take a look at it in a way that is dispassionate, and in a way that's not influenced by your own will. your own emotions, nonsense from other people, whatever it is, you need to have a neutral perspective. And so rising above it all, taking some time to just maybe let your emotions settle, let your thoughts settle, and see, Perthrow is about the mystery of fate. It can mean birth, it can mean death, it can mean, it's just the unknown. It's the, if it's turned upright, we're talking about the well of word, which is the well of fate or unknown. So when you have that appear, what this is telling me is whatever you think that's at the heart of this, whatever willfulness or thoughts that have taken you there or emotions that have taken you there to decide certain things. At this point now, this guy's decided I'm gonna go above it for a minute, and I'm gonna take a look, and I'm gonna think, and I'm gonna let things settle, and I'm gonna get a better picture. In other words, get a bigger picture. Maybe you're only seeing just a small portion of something, and maybe the bigger picture might actually inform you differently. And I'm not even really talking about letting spirit inform here. Maybe you just don't have all the facts. Sometimes we get into it with people because we don't listen enough. I was watching Real Time, and the Mooch was on, and he has this way of talking that it's kind of a low, quiet monotone, and he just keeps talking. And the problem is because he's not loud enough, he's not assertive enough, and I'm sure it's just his manner, but because he's not, intense enough, there's not enough vocal inflection. People, I think, tend to who don't listen to everything, whose minds start working before the person's finished talking, those type. Well, then Bill starts getting mad at him, and I suspect it's because he didn't listen to everything he said. But in fairness, the Mooch didn't make it easy to do that. So it's like we get ahead of ourselves, and we don't either listen closely enough, or maybe we don't convey our message clearly enough, or something happens where people jump to conclusions and you think you have all the facts. Well, maybe you don't, even if you genuinely believe you did. Well, maybe you don't. And so maybe there's the mystery of the unknown here in today's experience, that maybe this time that you take to get above it all and to sit above the fray, stand above the fray, and take a look at the bigger picture, maybe you're going to find some stuff that you didn't know about that could change your entire perspective, making the conflict you're experiencing completely unnecessary. So anyway, something to think about. It's a little, well, I see the sun out there. We have some swarm boxes up in our trees, and we just leave them up there and then put swarm lure in, during swarm season for the bees. And I can see the sun on one of the yellow swarm boxes that's up there in that tree out there in the backyard. So we're having a little bit of sun, but I suspect we might have some rain today. We've had some little intermittent rain on the high desert. We don't get a lot, but and it's weird. It's not like in Portland where it just rains and dumps it. It seems to like dribble, and it sounds ridiculous. Or it'll hit in these bands where you'll have like a band hit and then stop, and then a band hit and then stop. So we have weird rain here. I mean, sometimes it'll just open up, but a lot of the time it doesn't, and it drives my husband nutty. And especially if it's in the middle of the night, he'll just sit and listen for it, and he'll wait for the next raindrop so he doesn't sleep. Anyway, so anyhow, thanks so much for stopping by. Sorry for all the personal stories here, but anyway, thanks for stopping by. If it's your first time, welcome. If you're coming back, thanks so much for coming back. This is fun to do. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click subscribe. That'd be awesome. But any event, well, I'll be back tomorrow, and I hope you come back, and we'll chat again about what tomorrow brings. Remember, today's an illumination day. It's also a day of change, and it's a day of standing above the fray. So head over to imsteppingaside.com. Go see the blog Stepping Aside. I'm pretty proud of it. I do it all myself. And thanks again, and blessed be.